Hi, trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about domestic abuse and suicide and my experience of these things. 32 years ago today, the police called at my front door and told me that they'd found my husband dead in his car at Vindolanda. And the first thing I felt was relief. It wasn't that I didn't love him. We'd been married since April, and during that time, even before that time, he had been abusive, threatening, physically violent. I'd called the police one time, and then when they arrived, I told them everything was fine. I'd hidden in the shed when I knew he was out at the pub, and made myself a bed in there with a sleeping bag, and waited till I heard him come back. I couldn't sleep until I'd heard him come back and everything had gone quiet, so I thought he'd gone to bed. And then I woke up being dragged by my feet out of the shed, and then pushed upstairs. I was 5 months pregnant when he died, so all of this was happening with my daughter still in the womb, and the day that he died, he'd been to the pub, and he had been in a very difficult headspace for 3 days. I'd been trying to bring him round. At one point, things seemed to be looking up. I'd tried to kind of be playful and light-hearted about things, and he didn't take it well, and the whole thing blew up again. And then he went off to the pub, and then he came back, and it all started up again, and he had a hold of me by the hair and was banging my head on the bed, on the mattress. And then I was kind of struggling, trying to get away, and he dragged me towards the wall, and I thought, that's it, I'm going to die. I thought my life was over, and I stopped struggling. As soon as my body went limp, he threw me on the bed and he walked out, and that was the last time I saw him. And he tried to ring me that night, and I kept putting the phone down. He started off sounding kind of reasonable and rational, and then within a minute or two, everything was my fault, and I couldn't cope with it anymore, and I didn't want to listen to it anymore. And so I put the phone down, and the next day the police turned up and told me that he'd died, and how he died, and where he died. And so there was a lot to process in all of that. And at first I used to talk to people. I didn't have many friends because I'd recently moved back after a year and a half of travelling, and most of my friends had moved away from the area when they went to university, which I didn't do. And there were only 1 or 2 people I could talk to about it, and then I met more people, and strangely, it didn't seem to be a topic they really wanted to linger on. And And so I didn't talk about it. You know, I wanted to have friends, and apart from anything else, every time I told somebody, I had to deal with their reaction, and that was hard. You know, I was already dealing with my own process, and then when somebody heard this story for the first time, they were shocked, and I had to deal with their shock. And I ended up trying to make things all right for them, so that wasn't helpful for me. And so I just stopped talking about it. It wasn't that I was hiding it, but very few people in my life know this story. And I've spent a lot of time working through the emotions, the beliefs, and working with the habits and tendencies that I have myself that contributed to me getting into an abusive relationship in the first place. You know, I guess I thought I could save him, and it doesn't work that way. So 32 years on, I've processed this in many, many ways. A lot through dance, a lot through my 5 rhythms. And recently, my husband was called Mike, Michael. He was German. That's where my surname Kurtz comes from, Kurtz. And recently a friend who I've known for many years but wasn't close with, a friend who was also called Mike, also committed suicide. And it's been an opportunity, I suppose, for me to revisit my grief in a really different way, without the trauma which came from the abuse, which I have processed, and with a long distance between the immediacy of the shock and the initial grief. The grief doesn't go away, but it does change. And so I wanted to just reflect a little about how suicide silences people, and the fact that it's a taboo, such a taboo, and such a difficult topic, really isolates people. And I think that's a problem. And I also think that for me personally, the work that I do teaching 5 rhythms, it's all about process and depth and having found ways to survive and thrive following trauma and difficult circumstances in life are assets in any kind of healing work. And I would like that to be recognised. I'd like my story to be known, so that people know that I know suffering. We all know suffering, but mine has been largely silent. And I'd like that to be acknowledged and understood. And I don't want sympathy. Yes, there's always more to process in a story like that. And you can see I'm emotional. And I have ways of working with that. I don't need an outpouring of sympathy. I just want to be seen. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me.